Question: why do bad things happen to good people? What's the point of being righteous if the righteous have to suffer? It seems that we who run life's race can sometimes only limp, kept on the sidelines by difficulties of all kinds. Today we'll see that God has a purpose in every trial His children experience. Stay with us. From Chicago's Moody Church, this is Running to Win with Dr. Erwin Lutzer, whose clear teaching helps us make it across the finish line. Sometimes we must choose to obey God, even when it hurts. In our series, What is God Up To?, Erwin Lutzer today examines 3 souls in conflict, Bible characters who faced the test of faith and were victorious.
Now, if you're counting, you know that this happens to be number 6 in a series of messages entitled, What is God Up To? And if you've been listening to these sermons, you know that the bottom line is that the whole purpose of the creation of the world, this little planet in the midst of an incredibly large universe, the whole purpose is really that God may have an opportunity to magnify Himself. That's what it's all about. And no matter where you and I fit into that, the fact is that God has certain desires and ends that He has in mind that He's going to accomplish. And so He allowed sin, the fall of Satan, the fall of mankind, the history of redemption, all of the things that we have talked about to bring to the surface an opportunity for the world, for angels, for demons, for men, and for Himself to be glorified. And that's the bottom line. We've noticed, for example, that in His confrontation with Satan, God is proving that no will that is opposed to Him can ever benefit. There's no such thing as a person taking on God and winning and in the end coming out victorious. It is impossible, and God is proving that. Last time we stressed how that the cross of Jesus Christ brings into sharp focus all of His attributes, that there is a convergence of the merciful attributes of God at the cross of Jesus Christ. And if you didn't get the sermon last week, I encourage you to make sure that you have a copy of it by cassette. And so we learned also that the cross magnifies the grace and the love and the compassion of God, but also His justice and His eternal purpose. Today I want us to understand that another hidden agenda that God has, that is really not so hidden, is that He might develop a relationship with us and that He might be able to prove that He is adequate to meet the deepest needs that we as His creation have. He's interested in showing His sufficiency, His worth in our lives. He is building a relationship of love that exists between us and Him. And that's what life is really all about. You know, it says in Peter, that very familiar verse that all of us know by memory, that the trial of our faith being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto the honor and the glory and the praise of God. Notice that. The trial of our faith, the Scripture says, is precious to God. Now, how better could God try our faith than to put us in situations in which it appears as if He is opposed to us, and then tell us that He is for us and expect us to believe it? And that's what life is all about. God is constantly putting us in predicaments and situations where it appears as if He is doing things that work against us, and yet wanting us to believe that He is actually working for us. That's what the trial of our faith is all about, and that is precious to God. And you're in circumstances that God could improve but doesn't. And you're involved in relationships that are difficult, that you wish you could get out of, but you can't get out of those relationships, and you're saying, God, why is it that life is so hard? And God is saying, I'm doing things that appear to be opposed to you, and telling you that I'm for you, and I want you to believe it. And that's what the trial of faith is all about. What I'd like us to examine today is the fact that no matter what trial God brings into our lives, it really turns out to be a choice that we need to make, a choice in which we can honor God or dishonor Him. And whether that is a trial or a temptation, it all boils down to the same thing. God is constantly asking us to make decisions in which we can either prove our love and gratitude to Him, in which we can show how much we value our fellowship with Him, or we can turn against Him and we can devalue our fellowship with Him and our love. And you and I are confronted by choices like that every single day. Some are big choices, some are little choices, but that also always is the bottom line. Now, what I'd like to do today is to show you three people in the Scriptures who faced choices like that and made the right choice. Normally, we use examples that are negative, and there are many in the Scripture of people who made the wrong choice. But today we're going to look at some souls who were in conflict. That's the title of our message, Souls in Conflict. And they came out choosing God against incredible odds. The first conflict that I want you to see is the conflict between God and sexual temptation. God and sexual temptation. And I want you to turn to Genesis chapter 39, if you would please. Genesis chapter 39, because as I mentioned to you, it's a story of someone who made the right choice. It's the story of Joseph. Recall that he was in Potiphar's house and spending a great deal of time with Potiphar's wife of necessity because of his responsibilities. And it says in Genesis 39 verse 7, "And it came about after these events that his master's wife looked with desire at Joseph and said, 'Lie with me.' But he refused and said to his master's wife, 'With me here, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house, and he has put all that he owns in my charge. There is no one greater in this house than I, and he has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do this great evil and sin against God?'" Let's stop there for a moment. Let's think through all of the reasons why